Data.
Let's see if it's
Sending
true.
the data.
I see us on Twitch now.
Very good. What else we got? Yeah, Trey says streaming to both, so maybe that's a good sign. Hold on, let me fix the volume.
All right, it says we're on YouTube. Yeah, I know I'm a moderator for this channel. Thanks.
Yeah, appreciate that. It's a good thing you are, sir.
Yeah, we sound good.
Excellent.
Perfect.
Okay. Here we go.
Send out the Discord notification.
Yep, got it. And there's a YouTube one too. Cool.
Where is the Twitters?
Hello, Roxanne. Glad you're here.
Oh, yeah, there was an announcement just a minute ago, too, that is something we would talk about tonight, so I'm going to bring it up. And I think you're going to be either you're going to find it funny or you're going to be floored. I'm not sure which one, and I'm excited.
Okay.
Because D&D put out another tweet.
Oh, did they? Just when you said I thought you said the stupidest thing ever, you go right on talking.
Yeah, pretty much. Hello, Roxanne. You said hello specifically to both of us, so I wanted to make sure I got my hello in there.
Excellent. Excellent, excellent, excellent. We got a couple things to talk about. But for part of this, I'm sitting back relaxing and listening about Mouse Guard. That's going to happen.
All right, the tweet has been sent out as well. That means I can take this out of my ear.
Okay.
I have my notes here in front of me. Should be good. I am going to increase the size here.
Okay.
Oh, there they are. Okay. I have to hold both of these. Nope, okay, never mind.
Oh, my gosh. Here we go.
I'm just not going to worry about
Here we
increasing
go.
the size.
Okay.
Well, it should be control page up, but you have to hold function on this laptop.
Yeah.
And when you do that, it doesn't work. Let's not worry about it.
Hit function, right?
Well, I thought so, but it doesn't work either.
Oh, okay.
Maybe I need that pack they keep trying to get me to buy.
Probably so. So you can use the function keys.
Yeah. No, I'm excited. I think we got some cool stuff to talk about tonight.
Okay. Well,
I guess I need to shift just a little bit, huh?
maybe. Yeah. That might be a little bit off.
There we go.
Get in now.
Now you can't see my eyes.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Get cyber eyes.
I want them both. I don't know. Maybe it'd be better to keep one human eye.
Maybe so.
So, I did have a pre-show topic.
Okay.
I'm a little concerned about it
Okay.
because it might get us demonetized.
Okay.
But I did a little bit more research after I told you that I'd seen it earlier.
Okay.
And what I told you originally is not quite correct.
Okay.
There's more to this. An account was suspended on Twitter, not banned.
Okay.
Suspended on Twitter for the, hey, Dark.
I don't know. I'm going to find out from Trey.
The
Glad you're here.
official ornithology Twitter account was suspended on Twitter after they made 8 posts in the last 11 hours about the woodcock bird.
Okay.
Somehow talking about the woodcock got them
Flagged.
and then someone suspended them.
Oi. Look, I realize we got some bad names for animals, but context matters.
They are attempting to get the account back. However, they did state that the bird they were going to be talking about tomorrow was the blue tit.
The blue tit, yeah.
So,
Yeah. All right.
you know.
Well, good luck to them. Good luck to them.
We'll see how that goes. Yeah, so there is a wrinkle that's come up for that, Dark, because I saw that earlier myself. There's a weird part of it. There's a paid version and a free version, but you still have to opt into the free version. My gut says that most people that run Twitter bots are probably just going to stop running their bots. Hey, King.
Yeah.
Because why? But it also means if you're using Twitter as a second form of verification for a mobile game, before the 7th, you need to cancel that and set up a second form of verification that's not Twitter, because that also is going away.
Okay. I don't know. I'm not a twit. I don't twit.
API is an individual line of code that assigns it basically like, I'm going to put this in terms of an MMO because API most of the time comes up in an MMO, right?
Okay.
You take your API key, which is a code for specifically your account, and then you place it into your third-party program, and that lets it access your account without accessing the information in the account. It just lets it say, this account is the one I want to affect with whatever tools I'm using.
Yeah.
So an API for Twitter allows you to run a bot without having to log into that bot every day and make the post yourself.
Oh, okay.
So the API key before was free. Now you have to pay for it unless you opt into the free version, which has limits. And I believe the limit is you can't make more than 80 posts in a year with that bot. Now, there are bots that post daily.
Yeah.
So obviously that's a problem.
Ooh.
So, we'll see. We'll see. You bit your tongue in your sleep. Oh, no. That's not good at all.
No.
That's not good at all.
I wonder if the IGT website has something on auto post on the IG Twitter. I want to publish things on here.
Probably.
Yeah.
Our auto tweet that goes out is an API key.
Okay.
And I'm not going to pay to do that. So I'll probably just have to manually tweet out every time.
Okay.
I don't necessarily want to opt into the free one because I don't know what all the terms of service are.
Yeah, and we're probably going to use it more than 80 times this year.
Right. So, yeah, most likely. Unless it's a different way. I have heard that. Yeah. Eating sore in your mouth is a canker sore.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I'm not going to pay for that. So,
okay. Fair enough.
Twitter's a weird place now.
Elon's got enough money. He doesn't need yours.
Yeah, no, he doesn't. He does not.
So.
All right. Well, let's kick this off then.
Okay.
Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Full Spectrum TTRPG podcast. My name is Trey.
I'm Rungren.
Is it weird that I got that infinitely faster than I got the Full Spectrum
I
TV
have
podcast?
no idea. Maybe.
Because I got that, I struggled over it once, and I've got it already.
All right. We'll see.
But yeah, well, now that I've said that.
You still got to sign off tonight.
That's true. So we are talking about Mouse Guard tonight, but before we get to Mouse Guard, we have a couple of, I almost said house cleaning things to cover. That's not right. It's news.
Yeah.
You want to talk about the OGL stuff first, or should I hit you with this new?
Well, let's cover the OGL stuff. Wizard's statement is, Wizard's point right now is, all right, we're keeping OGL, the original.
Yeah.
And then we're actually going to put all this in the Creative Commons, which is a lot.
Nice.
Which is,
it's a lot of stuff.
Lot. And if that goes into Creative Commons, there's nothing they can do about it.
Yeah, anybody can use it anywhere.
They don't have, so it's kind of, it's not a surprise. And love it or hate it, it seems that capitalism did its thing.
Yeah.
Because they really backtracked. It seemed to me that the unsubscribe from D&D Beyond,
that hurt them.
Yeah, they didn't take very many days of that before they were scrambling.
Does this mean that I can use the other name for Ice Stalk Creature?
I don't think so. It's not in the Creative Commons.
Of course.
It's not in the Creative Commons.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, it is a good step. I'm still not very fond of what they tried to pull, but it's a good step. That's the thing,
right? Because everybody still feels kind of burned.
Yeah.
If you weren't content, people who weren't content creators were like, no, this really,
yeah,
it's crap. you know? So, yeah.
And although that was a good step, they have just tweeted just a little bit ago. Oh, we should answer that first. Yeah. They basically said they were not going to be deauthorizing the old one.
Right.
That was the big issue that most people had. That's what started the open D&D movement, the free D&D movement, was the deauthorization of the old OGL. That was the big thing that changed, is they said, we're not going to touch it. It'll remain the way it is now forever.
I found something out today, though, that kind of brought into perspective to me a little bit, okay? Critical Role, as we know, is very popular, right?
Yeah.
We expect them to make money. Their actual earnings, like last year, like one year they had 9 million.
Yeah.
And another year they had 11.
Yeah.
So on that year they made 9 million. What they were going to say is for 825,000 out of 825,000 of that, you owe D&D 25%.
Yeah.
So I mean that adds up to a lot.
It makes sense why they wanted that.
Yeah. Golly. I didn't realize. I knew they made money. I didn't realize they made that much money.
Yeah. Don't understand how they thought they could get. Yeah. Well, they just thought people would never turn from D&D. They thought people were so loyal to D&D that it would never happen.
Yeah.
To my knowledge, they haven't changed the wording of the original OGL. It's that they were trying to make a new OGL and deauthorize the old one.
Yeah. There was a second OGL put out that had the details on getting the badges, registering.
Yeah.
There were a lot of other things. And was kind of condescending in a couple of parts.
Yeah. We're not going to send a mind flayer to your house or whatever it was.
Yeah, it was a little condescending. And then they had the statement out after that. After they decided to fix everybody, and like, oh, well, we both won.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you didn't. You messed up.
Exactly. It is so much like the Fine Brothers trying to copyright React.
Yeah. It's just, this is something they would have to have done 20 years ago.
Yeah. It's far too late now.
Yeah. Anyway, but on the bright side of that, if you do like D&D, you can go to D&D Beyond and get a crap load of material.
Yeah, a lot of stuff's free now, which is great.
Yeah.
Now they did just release a new book. I say just releases, and pre-orders are up now.
Okay.
The book's coming out on the 21st. It's called Keys from the Golden Vault. And you may say, Trey, you're mad at Wizards right now. Why are you doing promotion for them right now? Well, when they tweeted this out, they said, thievery required, honor optional.
Oh, is that their motto?
Yep. For this book.
No, I meant Wizards motto. That's
Wizards motto. Exactly. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's too on the nose, right? It's too close. And so many comments are like, so you're telling me I should pirate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
You just told me thievery required.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you not realize the irony of this? Don't do this.
There's this thing that some people do too much, but you need to do a little of it.
Yeah.
It's called self-reflection.
Yep. 100%.
Golly.
How old is Tolkien? We'd have to ask our lore master over here.
What? Before 20 years, how old is Tolkien? Are you talking like actual Jared talk? Are you asking about, because The Hobbit came out in the 30s, and it was like a decade and a half after that. That was Lord of the Rings.
But even then, he didn't own the copyright on elves and dwarves and stuff.
Well, okay.
Because those have existed in mythology.
You need to look at his spellings.
Right, that's true. His elves and his dwarves are different.
Especially the dwarves. They're not dwarfs.
Right.
The FS, the dwarves.
Yeah.
VES. It was a different kind of spelling. There is some things. And look, he was him and C.S. Lewis both, when it came to old mythologies and different countries, and old religions, old folklores and stuff like that, they knew them.
Yeah, they were very well read.
They knew them. They even taught them. So it is, it's J.R.R. Tolkien's Norse mythology.
Yeah.
But Tolkien died in the 1970s. So.
But yeah, if they wanted to go back and beat Tolkien for copyright, they would have to go pretty far back. Yeah. They would have to go before they existed, before Gary Gygax was born.
Yeah. So you have to go back. Okay. So The Hobbit came in the 30s. In the 40s, you actually go back to the 1890s with George MacDonald and what is the name of that? It's like Phantasmia or something like that.
I don't know.
Anyway, George MacDonald inspired both Tolkien and C.S. Lewis.
Yeah.
He was a Spanish writer, and he had that fantasy world.
It depends, Dark. That depends.
Yeah.
There are ways to extend it.
Yeah, thanks to Disney.
Yeah.
But
it didn't used to be, but
yeah, it would still be. We would still have a few.
That's fair. Faith.
Okay, well, appreciate it. It would still be The Hobbit itself may be coming up because we're into 1927, I think.
Yeah.
So 1927 before, that's the public domain, and you've got to like 38. So it's going to be a few years, and The Hobbit should hit public domain.
Yeah. I don't see any way that they would
I don't think so.
try to extend that.
Disney pulled a Disney thing over Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
So that was a weird thing. But because you now have all of Sherlock Holmes in the public domain. So
yeah, Winnie the Pooh, as has been mentioned, is in the public domain now.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. No, and they couldn't have got the copyright for rolling dice in a Theater of the Mind game either, because that came from old school wargaming.
Yeah.
That's where that phrase began.
Yeah.
And that was being done in the 1600s. But I do have one more piece of news for you real quick.
Okay.
Which is that you remember we talked about Pathfinder having sold out of all of their physical. Well, they have just launched the So You Want to Try Out Pathfinder book bundle on Humble Bundle.
Okay.
Which gives you 28 different items, including the second edition core rulebook and the starter book, all digital. And you can get the vast majority of that for $25 or less.
Okay.
So that's
not bad.
That's a pretty cool bundle.
Yes.
Especially for somebody that's looking to get into Pathfinder.
It's gonna be interesting looking back at this like next year at this time.
Yeah.
And go, okay, who's made the new system?
Right. Well, and Critical Role announced they're working on their own system as well.
Not exactly.
Right.
But that putting hints together.
Yeah.
It seems like something they were doing. Man, that would be rad.
Yeah, they never said outright, hey, we're doing this, but they might as well have said we're doing this. So.
Yes, and that is, yes, technically true, because a lot of there are, yes, it's Pathfinder 2 ebooks. A lot of their creatures, places, and stuff is, they made it. They came up with it. It's original stuff. But there's, that's maybe half of it. The other half is stuff that's pulled from folklore. And I don't see that as much in 5e as I did like
unfortunately,
in second edition. Like in second edition, you had stats for Baba Yaga.
Yeah.
In the, I don't know, 3 or 3.5. You'd have yeah, Baba Yaga on that, and they were different.
There were whole expansions in 3.5.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Feywilds, as we know them in 5e, they had whole books on, hey, we're going into the Feywilds. You're going to be facing Boggarts. You're going to be facing Bargish. You're going to be facing Gwishkis,
Yeah. Well, and we'll see a lot of the stuff when you talk. You got two kind of elves. They said it was like two different ways, because you had the Norse, like you'd see in the Thor: The Dark World.
Yeah.
That was kind of elves.
Yeah.
But they also had the like the Irish kind of elves coming from the Feywild, as you say, and the and pushing out, and a lot of that was based on Shakespeare, like A Midsummer Night's Dream.
Yeah, 100%.
That he pulled from other stuff too. What do we got here?
Yeah, that's what I've heard, Dark, that they are pretty expensive normally. I think they probably were too, Waverly. Why wouldn't they have been, right? Especially when Matt Colville is a good friend of Matt Mercer, and he's been working on his own system for a while with his group. But I agree. I think it might have just... We need to finish this sooner.
Yeah. That is, though, they have an actual license.
Yeah.
They went to D&D, so they have their own private little license on the side.
So let me just think.
I think Roll20 and they do too.
Yeah, they do too.
A few of those places.
And then King took care of that bot for us, so appreciate that.
Right on. Thank you, sir.
But All right. You ready to tackle the subject of tonight?
Yeah, go for it, man. It's all you, bro.
So tonight we're talking about Mouse Guard 2nd Edition.
Okay.
Use D&D creatures as names. Oh, you mentioned that already.
Yeah,
You
yeah. They
responded
have
to that already.
Yeah, they have an actual license.
I just missed that. So Mouse Guard is a weird system. I like it a lot, but the more that I've looked into it, it is very Redwall. Yeah. If it goes to post a game, go for it, King. Hopefully the timeout is a warning enough of, hey, take your bot somewhere else. But
We've got the only bot we need.
right.
Nightbot.
That's right. Who for some reason doesn't catch those. He catches Faith anytime Faith gets excited, but he won't catch spam bots.
I think our bot's drunk, but that's a different question. All different discussion.
No, Mouse Guard is a very cool system. It does have some really interesting things about it that I don't know how I feel about it. And we're going to get into those. One of the big ones is combat in Mouse Guard is really weird.
Okay.
It feels like it would be easy for a small group of children to learn, but hard for a large group of adults to learn in a weird way.
Okay.
And we'll get into that. That's possible. That's possible, Faith. But I wanted to give you a little bit of the background on Mouse Guard, kind of like you did with Shadowrun, you know?
Yeah.
Mouse Guard has a little creed here, which is, hail all those who are able. Any mouse can, any mouse will, but the guard prevail. So in Mouse Guard, you do, it's a lot of basements. You do have, that's very true. You have a interesting variant of Redwall in a lot of ways. Redwall, of course, being Redwall Abbey is where all the creatures of the forest that are nice and kind to each other for the most part live, but sometimes some of those are evil as well. And then you have the vermin that don't want anything good for anybody else. They just want what's best for them.
Yeah.
You know, and they'll take from anybody they have to. Mouse Guard is kind of like that, except it's not mice and squirrels and hedgehogs and birds living together in harmony. It is just the mice.
Yeah.
And they will trade with the other ones or they'll deal with the other ones. But most of the time, the other ones are just wild animals and want to eat them. So your mouse is anthropomorphized, right?
Yeah.
It stands up on its hind legs. It wields weapons. But if you run into a fox or a crow, it's not going to pick up a weapon. It's just a fox or a crow.
Right.
The exclusion to that, and the exception, I guess, is weasels. So I would have thought it would be rats, because that's what the first Redwall book is, rats that come in, right?
Yeah, maybe that's too on the nose for Secret of Nim. I don't know.
Probably.
I don't know.
But it's weasels, ferrets, martens, minks, and sables that are all in a big alliance with each other. Now, that alliance is tenuous. They can fight amongst each other as well, but they also wield weapons.
Okay.
And they are trying to disrupt the guard. Mouse Guard is a very role-play-based system. It is not so much, hey, we're going to gather around a table, we're going to make characters, we're going to have a good time, as much of, hey, we're going to gather around a table, we're going to make characters, we're going to tell a story. This is going to be over the course of multiple seasons in the universe. Your character has a birthday, your character ages. It is a journey that you're going on. And your character can die, but the chance of your character dying is pretty low. It means that the party as a whole has messed up. Because combat is not, hey, you fight with one enemy and you get attacked. It's, hey, the party has a health pool. And when that health pool is depleted, the party loses.
Okay.
Which is interesting. I don't know that I like the way combat works, but I do think it's interesting. I want to run it. And I should specify here again, I've never played Mouse Guard, but I did watch some people play it. And it's a lot smoother than it seems when I explain it. But also, your party has a health system. So even if you're playing perfectly, if somebody rolls poorly, the party's health goes down. And that, unfortunately, can get kind of annoying. You do, unfortunately, have to be a mouse. Now, they do say in there, any rules can be waived. So as a GM, I would say, you know what? You want to play a small squirrel, and you don't get to take advantage of being a squirrel, in that you get to climb trees faster than a mouse.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make a big deal out of that. But there's a specific reason that you have to have mice. And it's because of the way the nature system works.
Okay.
Kind of like Monster Hunter Fate system, yeah. your nature is any number between 0 and 7. And the higher the number, the more human you become. The lower the number, the more mouse you become. Hamtaro. Hamtaro's pretty great. I just got the theme song running through my head now. Hamtaro. Do-do-do-do-do-do. If you hit 7, you no longer have the desire to go out and gather or protect people or fight. And you have to stay at home for a season while you remember what it means to be a mouse. Because you've started getting too lofty and you're thinking of things above you. Big nasty rat. If you hit 0, you become too terrified to fight. And you've forgotten what it means to be a guard's mouse and are now just a regular mouse again.
Okay.
And you need to be reminded. You don't, however, have to take a month off or a season off. If you hit 0, you get negative traits instead. And so we'll get into the nature system a little bit more later. I'm trying to cut down my notes because I have 4 pages worth of notes. Because it's a full system. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And it's very different from anything I've ever played. So it's for 2 to 6 players. Anything above that, combat is going to become so annoying. Because the way combat works is at the start of combat, you elect somebody to be the combat captain. And that player, the whole party discusses what actions the party's going to take. That player divvies out who does what. And you only get 3 actions per turn. That doesn't mean everybody gets to do 3 actions. That means if you got a party of 6 people, only 3 of them get to go on the first turn.
Ooh, okay.
Nobody gets to go again until everybody's got to go.
Okay.
But it means the enemy goes 3 times as well. So if the enemy is a bunch of enemies, that's pretty good. But if, for instance, you're fighting a snake, that means the snake gets to go 3 times. And so combat with more than 6 people would quickly become, hey, this person's going to sit here for like 3 turns before they get to do anything.
Yeah.
That's not cool. Yeah. It can be like Pikachu.
No lightning. No.
It uses 6-sided die.
Okay.
Kind of like Shadowrun. However, it's got a really interesting things of snakes, swords, axes. If you roll a 1, 2, or 3, that is always a failure.
Okay.
That's a snake. If you roll all snakes, that's extra degrees of failure, which can be very bad. If you roll a 4 or a 5, that's a sword. That's always a success. And if you roll a 6, that's an axe. That's always a critical success. You can get bonuses because of your character, the traits that you take or the skills that you have. These bonuses will give you extra successes. So even before you roll, you automatically have 2 successes or 3 successes, which is very good.
Yeah.
But when you use your skill, you have to do a special kind of check, which if you fail it, you have a margin of failure, and the DM gets to decide what that margin of failure means for that skill or for that thing you're trying to do. It's really interesting the way it works. I feel like it's very hard to fail in this game because the whole thing is built around goals. So at the start of every session, the GM gives you your mission, and then the party writes down goals for their character, each one individually. And then the party writes down a goal for the mission. So maybe the GM gives them a mission of, hey, you're going to go find this mouse that has gotten lost. This baby field mouse has gotten lost out in the wilderness, and we need you as the patrol to go find them. So the mission goal is to find the field mouse. But then maybe one of the players says, my goal specifically is to find that mouse before he gets hurt.
Yeah.
One of the other players is, my goal is to bring back what's left if he's not alive. And based on those goals, different checks can be done. Different challenges can be done of, hey, my character does not believe this mouse is alive. He's been gone for 3 days. My character thinks he's probably dead. I'm going to go against my check or against my goal that says that I think he's probably already dead and I'm going to bring back what's left. And I'm going to go in here anyway looking for him.
Okay.
And then you roll against your goal. And if you succeed, you get an extra point to use when you get back to base. And so it's always encouraging you to challenge your character. If you fail, there obviously is a circumstance.
Yeah.
A good example of this would be, let's say my character's goal is I want to make sure I get back home because I've got little siblings to help feed.
Right.
I got to make sure to get home. And then the party's getting attacked and we're losing the fight. And my character now has to decide, oh, it's ad time. Is it though? My character now has to decide, do I help in this fight knowing I might die and not be able to get home? Or do I leave the party so I can make sure I get home? Because my goal was to get home.
Yeah.
If I go with the goal, I get 1 point for following my goal and completing my goal. If I challenge the goal and stay to help the party, I theoretically could get a point for helping the party and challenging the goal and for getting back home safe. So it's a weird system of you write a goal, but then you want to find opportunities to challenge the goal.
Yeah.
And I like it, but it's weird. I think it's great roleplay wise. I don't know that it's as fun mechanically wise. You know? I want to give you a little bit before I keep moving into the systems. I want to give you a little bit of the history of the Guard.
Okay.
Specifically, in the distant past, mice lived wherever they could. The vast majority died well before reaching old age. A few desperate groups made a stand, staking their claim and trying to defend it as best they could. Word spread and mice flocked into them, eventually growing into towns and forts. I understand. The strongest of these became a citadel called Lockhaven. As time passed and Lockhaven continued to grow, it looked outside its walls and made the decision to use its strength to defend and support all those without. All mice must prosper, or all mice will fail. Thus, the Mouse Guard was founded, and the mouse that first spoke up... Pretty much, right? The mouse that first spoke up to defend the others became the first matriarch. And so the matriarch is the one that in character gives you your missions that you go out on.
Okay.
The party tells you to do and work against it by going where you want to go. I mean, that's one way to do it, but it's not always just going against your goal either. Sometimes it's playing your goal in an interesting way. The example that they give is a character whose goal is, I'm going to work with my head, or think with my head, act with my heart.
Yeah.
And the goal is, hey, that's what I'm going to do. But then they come upon a situation where it's, I could help this person, but if I help this person, I might not be able to get the information I need to be able to go do this. And either way they go from that, the goal is getting challenged.
Yeah.
There's
this is a little bit, there's on the DM section of the Shadowrun book, was talking about giving out, because you give out karma at the end of the mission. There.
Yeah.
You get a point for everything. And one of the things it points out is like, if somebody did something, it was like ultimately good, but it was detrimental to their character.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that was dumb for your character to do, but it did get the party out of the situation or whatever.
Right.
That would earn more.
Yeah.
To going through stuff like that. It kind of feels like that. It's kind of a push to, like, not just give your character options.
Push to be a hero, right?
A little bit, yeah.
So they do have a saying here. And this, I should specify, this is something not everyone is going to like. This is something that surprised me when I got to this point. If you're playing this game, your character is in the Mouse Guard, they have a sacred dedication to the Mouse Guard, as if it was a religion to them. They are wholly dedicated to the Mouse Guard. I feel like they probably did that so that there wouldn't be in-party fighting and stealing from each other.
Well, also, but
this is their life in this world story,
With what they've set up, that's the premise of the game.
Yeah, it is.
That you're in the Mouse Guard. You're called Mouse Guard.
Right.
That you're in the Mouse Guard, and this is what it would take.
You are dedicated to it. And in that way, there is not a lot of room for, I guess, corruption storylines. You could still do it, but it would be a lot harder to swing. And I know there are going to be some people, you have to care about the knighthood. Exactly, yeah. But the saying is this: we as Guard offer all that we are to protect the sanctity of our species, the freedom of our kin, and the honor of our ancestors. With knowledge, sword, and shield, we do these deeds, never putting a lone mouse above the needs of all, or the desire of self above another. We strive for no less than to serve the greatest good. And there's a little quote there that is, if every mouse on the territories turned their back on us, a guard mouse would still spend their last breath defending them. Which is, this is their sacred duty, you know?
Okay.
Now those,
Not bad.
I like it. I like it a lot, but I understand where some people be like, well, there's not a lot of freedom to make characters in that, because you're always going to have to be the good guy, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't always mean that you have the right choices to make either.
Yeah.
Because if the choice is, hey, we're defending the territory, not defending specifically this one mouse, maybe that guy has to die to defend the territory, you know? And exactly, that's the kind of thing that can come up, right? Hey, that kid's been gone 3 days. This is a waste of manpower.
Yeah.
We could be sending these people somewhere else. And that's an interesting discussion that could come up in character. Especially because the way this game handles conflict, when we think about conflict, we think about combat, right? That's not the way Mouse Guard does it.
Yeah.
If you've got to combat where you're picking the 4 actions that you have, and you have 3 of them you can use a turn, and the enemy's there, something's already gone wrong.
Right.
The guard, normally conflicts are a chase, an argument. I've got them all written down here before I try to roll them off the top of my head.
Use your notes.
Yeah, that's why we have them, right? An argument, a chase, a fight, a negotiation, a journey, a speech, or a war. Those are the different types of conflict, and there are different checks for each one of them.
Right.
But actual combat should be, in Mouse Guard, something that you rarely get into. The vast majority of your time in Mouse Guard is going to be spent on missions, facing the challenges of going on a mission in the wild, and back at home trying to get the things you need. So I referenced last week that there were this thing called circles.
Yeah.
Which is a really cool mechanic that I haven't seen done anywhere else. And it might remind you of older editions of D&D, because it's a little bit like that. Do you remember Streetwise?
Yeah.
So we used to have a stat in D&D called Streetwise. It wasn't statted per se, but it was based on your charisma, and you would roll your Streetwise. You could spec into it, but you would roll your Streetwise to try and get information around town.
Right.
Circles are kind of like that. So you get... I gotta explain this first. I forgot to step on this part. This system is deep because it's very unique. You have, instead of the GM is always in control and then the players get to do stuff during the GM's control, you have a GM turn, which is the mission, and then you have a player turn, which is downtime. And Mouse Guard puts the players in charge of downtime.
Oh, gosh.
So, right. So the players get 1 free check for anything they want to do in downtime. And then they also have the ones they earn during the mission. So if they check against their mission, their goal, or they check against one of their traits, or they check against their character flaw, then they can gain more points to use in that downtime. And one of the things they can use those checks on is a circles check, which means they can say, hey, I want to do a circles check. I want to see if I can find somebody that knows about that kid that we couldn't find, that we went out there to try and find, that been gone for 3 days, that knows when he left, what left with him. This mission may be done, but I still want to know how it happened.
Yeah.
So then as the GM, you go, okay, and we'll get into character sheets in a minute. You have this person on your character sheet that you know that would know you.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pull them up. Or here's a new person that you can be introduced to that you add to your circles on your character sheet. And now this is a resource you can use every time you come back to town.
This is Shadowrun has contacts.
Yeah.
You know this person. You know this person can get information. Yeah, that's cool.
They're nifty.
In your circle. Yeah.
I like it a lot. Let's talk a little bit about downtime too, because that's also the only time you can level up. And you may say, well, that means I can level up every time we come back from a mission. No, you can only level up in winter downtimes.
Oh, okay.
So you have to get through spring, summer, fall before you can level up anything. And then you can level up 1 skill that you know. You can try to learn a skill that you don't. And you can level up 1 non-combat skill that you know. All that's cool, right? Everybody's probably starting to ask, though, what are the classes like?
Yeah.
Right? What is it actually like to play this game? Well, the classes are very interesting. I don't think they're going to be classes you might expect because they don't call them classes, they call them skills. And your skills can be an apiarist, which is a beekeeper, an armorer, an archivist, a baker, a boat crafter, a brewer, a carpenter, a cartographer, a cook, a fighter, a glazier, a haggler, a harvester, a healer, a hunter, an instructor, a laborer, a lore mouse, a manipulator, a militarist, a miller, an orator, a pathfinder.
Do that?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
A potter, a scientist, a scout, a smith, a stonemason, a survivalist, a weather watcher, or a weaver. Because remember, it's not, hey, you're a great warrior.
Yeah.
You're a mouse. You're a mouse that started doing something else and then joined the guard. So either you could be a fighter that has been in the Thunder Rat class. Unfortunately not. You're a fighter that has come to fight and has been in the guard from a young child, raised up in the guard in the way of battle. Or you could be a baker that says, hey, I feel the call to protect my fellow mouse.
Yeah.
I'm going to go up and I'm going to join them, you know. There is no magic, no. Magic is not a thing in this. But instead, you have your wits, you have your wises, which are things that you're knowledgeable in. So, for instance, let's say you were a boat crafter, you would be coast-wise or lake-wise because you would know your way around a boat.
Yeah.
You would be boat-wise, of course, because you make them. If you specifically spend a lot of time on water, maybe you have fish-wise, so you know about fish. You know, things like that. And wises are really weird and interesting. I know I'm just throwing a lot of information at you here. Wises are really cool and interesting because you can get a perk if you use all three of your specialty wise abilities. So if you use a thing called I Am Wise, which lets you give a +1 die to any test related to your wise, and you succeed, then you get a point towards a perk. If you use a I Am Wise and you fail, then you get a point towards your perk. If you use Deeper Understanding, which is where you can re-roll a failed die but cost a fate point, we haven't gotten to what fate points are yet, you get a point towards a perk. And then if you then use Of Course, which is where you re-roll all your failed die, but it costs a persona point, which we haven't gotten to yet, then you get to take a perk, which can be a new skill or advancing a skill. So you basically want to always find reasons to be using your wise, which from a player side sounds great. From a GM side, does not sound great.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like somebody's going to go, oh, yeah, I'm going to look at this mountain. How can I apply my boat crafting skill to this? That was glazier. You make glass, King.
No. You ice cakes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, that's what it should be by that name. Before I just keep going, you have any questions so far?
I don't know. I think you may answer them because like there's a couple like Fate and Persona. I don't know.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to get into.
Yeah. Okay.
So fate points. You earn fate points when you challenge specific goals. So if you use a skill to challenge something, maybe you're going through on a mission and some pyromancer. What if Noah's Ark? I mean, in that situation, you could use Bowcrafter. But if you use a wise like that, or if you use a skill, let's say that, the river has flooded and you need to get to the other side, and you're a boat crafter, and you see a ruined boat nearby. Well, I'm going to roll my wise to use my skill, boat crafter, to fix this boat up so we can use it to get across the river. You get a fate point when you do that.
Okay.
Because you have used your skills.
Right.
You can only have up to 3 fate points per mission. So you need to make sure you use them. But you also want to use them because that gives you the perk to be able to get more skills. Important thing. Turn the snake into glass. I mean, look, that's something. Whereas persona points are, you earn those when you do anything that has to do with like a check that has to do with your belief. So we haven't gotten to beliefs yet.
You keep leaving stuff out.
I know, it's because there's so much. And if I just went down the list, it would just be words. Belief is your character's personal motto, which can change. For one of the examples they give in the book is, at the first sign of trouble, I draw my sword. That is their belief. That is what they hold to.
Yeah.
At the first sign of trouble, I will draw my sword. I will be ready. That belief's fine in most situations. But what about if a child falls and the mother screams inside the city?
Yeah. Yeah.
All of a sudden, the guard is very confused as to why you got your sword out.
Right. This lady's screaming.
Did you cause this to happen? So beliefs can be challenged. Another good example they give in the book is, my belief is that all mice deserve to be saved. What if you meet a mouse that's hurting other mice?
Yeah.
That could change your belief. And so when you challenge your belief and do a check against your belief, you earn a persona point. Now, these don't go away like the fate points do. These you get to keep. And these can be used before you roll to add an additional die to your roll, or to let you tap your nature for a challenge so that you can use your... I know it's just another resource we're getting into.
Yeah.
You can tap your nature for a challenge instead of having to use one of your other skills. But if you fail it, your nature goes down. If you succeed, your nature goes up. So you need a good balance to be able to keep your nature from going too high or too low.
Okay.
But you could theoretically make glass weapons. I don't think that would be like mithril, because I feel like a glass sword made by a mouse would break against a snake.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
But you never know. It could be really. It could be sharp enough to cut it first before it breaks.
Right. Go through. You have to know how to temper it.
Yeah. What if the mouse drops it on the way to the fight? It spider webs.
No. It's it's a print. It's made like a Prince Rupert drop. As long as they don't hit it on the end, it'll be fine.
Yeah. Now there is one more thing I need to talk about that you take when you're making your character, which is instinct. Your character has an instinct. These are regular mice.
Mouses our size would be giant.
Very true. So instinct is, you could put, instead of putting the belief as I'm going to draw my sword every time, you could put that as an instinct.
Yeah.
That's another option for that, right? The example they give is that my instinct is, whenever someone approaches me and I don't know them, I will yell out, I will draw my sword.
Yeah.
If you step closer.
Yeah. Freeze.
Which again, could be a problem depending on where you are. So instincts can also be challenged. That's fair.
Fair.
I like the instinct system a lot because it is your flaw, right?
Yeah.
It very quickly becomes your flaw of, well, my instinct is to trust everyone I meet.
Fool.
Well. And so the whole system is about trying to find ways to, and it rewards you for finding ways to challenge your character that cause character growth. You're not always going to be able to challenge your belief. Right. You're not always going to be able to challenge your instinct. I'm looking at the word, couldn't read it. But there are going to be times where you could, She trusts everyone.
I'd be a lot more trusting of carrying on 2 vorpal swords.
That's very true. Where was I going to go with this next? Because there's so much. You also can get fate points if you work towards the goal, and the GM says that you did something really interesting working towards the goal. You can get a fate point.
Yeah.
Playing an instinct true to the instinct, not challenging it, but playing it true, you can get a fate point. Acting on your belief instead of challenging it, you can get a fate point. Whereas the persona points are almost always by going against them, or you can get them by accomplishing your goal, or you can get them by one of the 3 things that we haven't covered yet at all.
Okay.
So at the end of every session, the GM picks an MVP. I don't like this system because everybody gets to know that the GM says this person did the most and the best stuff this deal, this mission. That doesn't sit right with me.
No, because of course, it's a different style of play.
Mm-hmm.
But for something like that, usually the other players have already pointed that out.
Right.
By that point. It's like, that's a good idea. You do that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Pre-ordered another 3 high grades. Oh boy. You could also get one by being a workhorse, which is where the GM says that, hey, this person put in the most effort. They weren't the MVP. They didn't do as much cool stuff.
Right.
But they did the most checks. They got the most done. They were the workhorse. Or by embodying your character, by being really good at role play. Which again, I like the idea behind it, but I feel like it punishes new players.
Yeah.
And I feel like it punishes people that aren't really wanting to go the extra mile role playing. That are just like, hey, I want to play a mouse.
You get the most improved.
Right?
Oh, you get the most improved point.
So I feel like for me, I would probably tweak these to be if the party does something really cool.
Yeah.
Like an MVP would do. Or if the party is doing a lot of stuff, even if it's not successful.
Yeah.
Or if the party is doing a lot of cool role play, I would probably reward those. But that's not the only thing that I'm not super fond of in this. When it comes to the missions, the way they tell you to do it in the book is to take the weather, which is one challenge, the wilderness, which is another challenge, animals, which are another challenge, or other mice, which are another challenge, and to pick 2 randomly from that list. And then once you pick the top 2, you pick 2 more that are like from below in that list.
Yeah.
Why I don't like that is because it sounds like a good game to practice. Yeah, it absolutely does sound like a great game to practice to become better at roleplay. 100%. Because that's what this game is roleplay. Let's say, for instance, you wanted to... I'll come back to the Gundam talk. Let's say you wanted to... as the GM, you want to send them on a mission in the spring in a heavy rain. So you go for that. Well, you can't then pick randomly and get animals and get an owl and go, okay, well, the owl's going to attack them by swooping down because it's a heavy rain. The owl's not going to be swooping down in a heavy rain.
Okay, yeah.
You know? Well, it's a bear that's come through, which bears are an enemy you could fight as a mice, and that's not a good idea.
I don't think so.
No. Well,
it's not a good idea as a human either.
No, it's sure not.
No.
The bear is probably not going to be moving all that much during the heavy rain either if it can help it, you know? But a snake might be.
Yeah.
Or a weasel might be trying to find shelter.
Yeah.
So instead of picking randomly, I feel like you should pick based on the mission that you lay out, you know?
Yeah.
Also, just real quick, mentioning bears. Do you know what the 2 highest challenge rating? It's not called challenge rating, but that's effectively what it is. Enemies are in this game. The bear and the moose. And when you think about it for a second, that makes perfect sense.
Heck yeah.
Soletta HG and cover her in... I can't read what that says.
Okay.
Cover her in... Oh.
Tomato.
Okay. Yeah, I understand why. Yeah. That's going to sound something really weird to Rundgren. Chariot of Saga.
I don't judge.
Batlog. Striker GNX. The ball. How am I going to fight a bear? Not well.
No. No.
So there is some more like little stuff here and there, and I do have more I could cover, but do you have any questions about what we've gone over so far?
I don't think I know even where to start.
Yeah. It's a lot, right?
Well, it is, but I mean, it's that way, you know, when you're getting a new system, you're going to have a lot to go through.
Absolutely.
You know, because we've got the basic, like, we're doing good in Shadowrun. Y'all are doing good with the combat. We're doing really good with it.
We figured it out for the most part.
Yeah, but then the details of it,
right?
There's little details in there that, you know, really get deep into it. They kind of feel like that. Like you have this layer where it's like, okay, this part of it you're going to understand and get pretty quick. Let's run through it once and you'll get it.
Right.
And then it's going to be trying to keep up with all that extra stuff that goes with it.
Mm-hmm. I think so too. I think it's a cool system. I think this first session is going to be rough. But after that first session, everybody's going to be having fun, I think. I did want to mention real quick the way that weapons work here, which is pretty cool. You are just a mouse.
Mm-hmm.
So they specifically state in the rulebook, remember, you are just a mouse.
Yeah.
You can't carry 2 swords and a bow and a halberd. And you can carry a sword or 2. You could carry a bow and maybe a dagger.
Yeah.
You could carry a halberd. You could technically carry a great axe. You're not carrying anything else.
Right.
That's all you got. And actually, surprisingly, the best weapon in this game is a staff, because you also get to use it to combat encounters of the environment. I'm going to use my staff to help me keep my footing, you know? Whereas I'm going to shove my sword in the ground to help me keep my footing. Well, it's probably going to break because it's made by mice.
Yeah. It may be made out of glass.
Yeah, it could be. Could be. But it is a lot, right? It's a lot of different checks. It's a lot of stuff that I feel like once you make your character sheet and I've got the character sheet here up in front of me, and you have specifically settled up hey, this is my character's age. This is the town my character's from. This is my character's parents' names. This is the senior artisan that trained me and taught me my skill that I have. This is my mentor in the guard that trained me how to fight. This is my friend that I know from this town. This is my enemy,
right,
that has hurt me once before, or that I have hurt once before.
The nemesis.
That would hurt me.
Yeah, good.
That would hurt me.
You deserve it.
Once you have all that stuff laid out, I feel like it just starts like flowing, right? Well, this is my belief now. Yeah. I've come up with who my teacher was. I've come up with who my parents were. Staff and a hat pin. Yes, I don't see why not.
2 bits.
This is my belief. This is my goal. This is my instinct. This is my little bit of gear that I have. And then what are your abilities? And we didn't go over all the abilities yet, but we went over circles.
Yeah.
Health is self-explanatory. Will is just your will to keep going. And then nature, of course, we went over. And then resources are, how many resources do you have? Do you have a lot of people as resources? Well, those go in circles, but they still technically count.
Yeah.
Probably don't have a lot of money, things like that. Hey, well, want a couple mountain climbing pickaxes?
That reminds me of a character. I can't think of what it was.
Modified to have sharp blades on the inside. Okay. That would be something.
Yeah.
I'd have to see if that's rule appropriate. It's definitely not lore appropriate, but it depends on your table. You can
or are you doing piercing or slashing?
Right.
You called. What? Yo.
I did just say will. It's very true. A tiny turtle. So, snapping turtles are pretty high up on the list of enemies for damage.
I bet they are.
They will destroy a mouse.
Yeah, I bet they will.
So I didn't mention this before. We got to talk about this before we close. Before we move on and get into closing, because I see what time it is. But we got to talk about this. If you lose an encounter, because I told you it's group health, right?
Right.
So they call that your disposition. And the enemy has a disposition too. If you reach 0 on your disposition, you have to accept a loss. That loss may not be that somebody dies, right? Like a little box turtle. That loss could be in the situation of, hey, we're trying to kill the snake. This snake may be hungry, maybe isn't. It might just be trying to get away.
Yeah.
It doesn't want to fight mice with swords. It's got a full belly. It doesn't want to eat right now. You lose the fight against the snake might just get away. And that's the loss you took.
Okay.
Or it could be, in getting away, the snake breaks somebody's leg.
Yeah.
And that's...
Well.
That's the loss. It's a compromise. I'm sorry, they call it a compromise.
Okay.
The further, like the lower your disposition was when you got to 0, and the higher the enemy disposition is, counts for how big the loss or a compromise it is.
Okay.
If the enemy hasn't lost any disposition and you've lost it all, you have to give as they call it, a fat compromise.
Yeah.
That's somebody's dying.
It's weird because in my brain, I'm relating this to the other 2 games I kind of know, D&D and Shadowrun.
Yeah.
And there's like optional rules for that where like there's permanent damage in D&D if you want to use it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You can lose a limb,
and
it's kind of based on circumstances, and there's random. And even in Shadowrun, it's the same thing. You've got percentage chances depending on stuff. You want to use those rules,
right?
To where, depending on what happens and how you handle it, you're going to have a permanent loss of some kind,
right? I like it a lot. I think it can get a little confusing with this, where you get into like, hey, we're just about even, and they lost. So the compromise is they get to beg for their life. If I choose to then take their life, they get to give me another compromise. They still die, but maybe the compromise is they were able to shout out my loved one's name before they died, and their ally in the woods heard it.
Yeah.
Maybe the compromise is now everybody in the town knows that I've killed this person. You know, my favorite part of it, this is the part that I really like about it, that doesn't feel confusing to me, is, hey, you lost bad.
Yeah.
Somebody's dying.
Yeah.
You get to choose who, and then they get to give a death blow. They get to attack again before they die.
Okay.
So they get to give the enemy a fat compromise. So maybe that is, hey, because I'm dying with my dying breath, I'm cutting off one of the enemy's limbs. That weasel's going home without his right arm.
Yeah.
Or maybe that enemy has a really good breastplate, or it's like a turtle that has a really thick shell. My death blow is I'm going to pierce that shell. So if the party ever fights it again,
it's got a pierce shell.
It's got a pierce shell. I like that system a lot. I think that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
The only downside I see is that Mouse Guard doesn't say, hey, have another character ready. Mouse Guard goes, okay, that person's out until the next season.
Yeah.
That person has to have a new character, but their new character does get to inherit any perks, any skill advancements they got. So they can say, hey, the old character was my mentor.
Right.
I get what they had, which I think is pretty nifty.
Yeah.
Because it is all about time moving forward, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's in that, putting that in there, it ups the survival element too a lot.
It does.
So it's like, I don't want to set out some sessions. I need to pay attention to what I'm doing.
Yeah. One of the examples they give in here, which I think is really cool, is the party dies to a fox. I say the party dies. A character dies.
Yeah.
So the rest of the party gets to leave wounded to a fox, and in dying, he shaves off the top of the fox's tooth right here as it eats him. So the fox can't even close his mouth anymore without being in pain. And so the fox is then going to always be in pain. So then later when the party fights the fox again, and the fox tries to eat somebody, he can't get them because they're in that spot.
I got you.
Which is really cool, really clever. Stuff like that it's just begging you to keep a story going, you know? But yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's that same style of thing of the next generation gets to inherit what the old one had.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Which that was something I always liked doing in D&D. Is have maybe not something that's passed down, but something, usually a weapon, something that's like, yes, this kind of not necessarily defines the character,
Right.
but like when she was talking about the blade for her character was a runner for the town, or like you had a halberd with one of your halberd, and you worked the river, and if you watch halberd warm-ups and demonstrations, it's kind of like, anyway, it has the same motions. It kind of worked out.
Hundreds of shards of glass. My character carries around a bag of shards of glass. That was my mentor's blade.
All right.
One day it shall be reforged.
Damn, you're just gonna. All right, this is my death blow. I'm just gonna throw this bag of shard glasses down the fox's throat.
I might have that kill the fox, honestly.
Yeah.
Maybe not today, but eventually.
I was kind of worried about that because I think this one's from the book. Yeah, you talk about cutting the tooth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a death sentence.
Yeah, it is.
For the fox.
It is. Not right away, but it will kill him eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where, when we talk about a fat compromise, that's where a fat compromise can lead to a death.
Yeah.
It just isn't going to be instantaneous.
Right.
And it can work the other way around too, where they did really well, but the enemy disposition didn't drop fast enough compared to their disposition drop. And so the bad guy only pretends to be dead. And the party has to walk away knowing it's still alive as players, but their characters don't know.
Character didn't know that.
So With my mentor's blade, even in death, he shall slay. So, I didn't touch on the mission types. I didn't touch on the details about the conflict types. I didn't talk about helping and you reap what you sow. I didn't talk about the different action types. There's so much more to go over. We would be here another hour talking about it.
Right.
We can come back to Mouse Guard another time. We can do it another week. That's not a problem with me if that's what chat wants us to do. But it is a really cool system. It's just pretty deep because it is its own system.
We're gonna have to pause and go through these systems because I still want to do Pathfinder too.
Yeah, I do too.
And go over that. I looked at that a little bit, but at some point I should go back and look at the character creation process.
Yeah, I agree. I think that'd
of
be
these.
great. Next week. Last long sword to a short sword to a dagger to a lonely shard, honed by hundreds of battles. Look, all I'm saying is if there's a glazier that the party meets named King.
Yeah. So you carry the broken sword. Did it get destroyed in battle? No, I tapped it against a pebble.
I did want to touch on just one little thing. Mice have traits. I didn't talk about the traits at all. And there's well over 50 traits. It's a lot.
Yeah.
That's feats, right? They're not always good. My favorite is old fur, which just means you're an older mouse. You're an old fur.
Okay.
And eventually you can retire. And then you become the mentor for your next character, you know?
That's cool.
But
That's pretty cool.
I just think that's nifty.
It's a good way to keep a good cycle going.
Mm-hmm. What are we going to talk about next week?
I don't know.
That's a good question.
Pathfinder.
We could talk about Pathfinder
I
next
think we're
week.
supposed to do Pathfinder next week.
We'll cover Pathfinder next week.
Yeah, because you got some. I know you got some skills or something about the classes. You said were very
Yes,
cool.
I am so excited to talk about the classes.
Okay, so
There are some really cool, unique classes of Pathfinder.
yeah, so next week we'll go deeper into Pathfinder.
Yeah,
Which means I get another week off.
that's true. And then, you really want to play Mouse Guard or Pathfinder? Mouse Guard seems really cool. I want to run some Mouse Guard, but I also recognize that Mouse Guard is a weird kind of TTRPG, kind of like Bluebeard's whatever that we talked about, where it seems less you're running it and more the whole party is running it together, the whole table.
Yeah,
Because the player turn is really interesting to me. They even mention in there that if things go pretty well and another player wants to roleplay the NPC, the game master can sit back and take a break.
okay.
Which is like, wow, all right. I guess people are really enjoying that game if they're like, I'll be that NPC. Sure. What do you want to know?
Yeah. Let's take care of this. I can't imagine though downtime. Like okay, D&T. This is downtime.
Yeah.
Y'all have a couple months. Go ahead. What
Yeah.
are y'all gonna do?
Yeah.
Oh, that'll get silly.
Well, and they even say, hey, a regular game of Mouse Guard is like 1 to 2 hours of the mission and then 2 to 3 hours of player turn. You
Fair
spend more time in town than you do on the mission, according to them, which is like, oh, all right.
That's cool. I would kind of like to check that out.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to Shadowrun, that's what I was talking about last week. One of the funnest things to do in that game is go shopping.
Yeah, I got a cybernetic eye, chat.
But the shopping in D&D is fun, but it seems so basic.
Yeah.
Compared to that, and then the downtime in D&D is usually like, okay, what were you doing over the couple of weeks? Yeah,
Right.
you can do that. No, that didn't
It's
quite
not
work
active.
out.
It's very
Yeah.
passive. Yeah.
Very passive. Yes.
Yeah, and shopping in D&D is terrible. Hey, what do you want? Okay, how much money you got? All right, here you go. Stained by the blood of a bear.
A 5-year ranger.
I don't want to talk about Ranger. I want to talk about Magus, Alchemist, Dark. I want to talk about the new classes that aren't in D&D.
What's that?
No, I think a fun place to start with Pathfinder would be to go over like what Pathfinder is and then go over the classes because there's some really cool stuff in there.
Right on.
All right. Well, tomorrow I'm painting Death Guard.
Yeah.
Never painted Death Guard before, so I'm really interested in how that's going to work. Kind of excited. They're disgusting Nurgle boys, so
Okay.
it's going to be fun. Monday, we'll be back in Emo Mondays.
Yes.
Gonna be covering some Lotro.
Yeah. I've got
excited.
stuff to do.
Tuesday, we'll be back for the regular podcast, Threw me off, sorry. Tuesday, we'll be back for the regular podcast. Wednesday, you'll play whatever gets voted on Tuesday.
Yes.
And, we'll see if we can get a different new game up there. And then next Thursday, we'll be talking Pathfinder 2E. So,
yes.
We'll have Shadowrun 2E, then Mouse Guard 2E, then Pathfinder 2E.
Second edition's always the best.
So, yeah, there you go.
We'll go over that. We need to go Pathfinder. We may have one or two more games we talk about, and then we'll go back and look at the look at the characters and kind of make them up and see.
I mean, if you want more break time, I also have the rule books for Forbidden Lands and Vyson.
Oh, well, let's get the Pathfinder. And because there is, well, we went over quite a lot of games of just alternatives.
Yeah, we did.
To play.
We did.
There's still Call of Cthulhu. That's a very popular game.
Yeah.
And there are people that still play GURPS.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
and apparently Convictor Drive is finally starting to ship. So I'm going to have to see if I can budget that in somehow. Because I want that. That's the Tokusatsu one. That's the Kamen Rider Super Sentai one.
Okay.
So I want that. And at some point I got to buy Lancer. Humble, just keep doing bundles for me, please. Please. But with all that said, I have been Trey.
I've been Rungren.
We've been the Full Spectrum TTRPG podcast. Remember to always enjoy the full spectrum. That Mouse Guard